Welcome, everybody. Good morning. I'm Brianne. I'm the director of the Washington Main Street program. And I'm pleased to welcome you to the second day of the Sustainable Funding Series on Main Street. I'd like to invite attendees as you're joining us to use the chat function to say good morning and what community you are joining us from. Today we dive into private funding initiatives, from traditional donor campaigns to small engagement activities that provide new avenues for private contributions. After the webinar, you'll be invited to join a 30-minute discussion. So look for that link in the chat box following the presentation. It'll be a link to a Zoom meeting that you're invited to join. But first, I want to say thank you to our partners today. This was a quick and collaborative series put together by Washington Main Street, Oregon Main Street, with special thanks to Sherry Stewart, Wyoming Main Street with Linda Klink and Kayla Klur, and then Colorado Main Street with Gail Langley. Yesterday's webinar, the first in the series, was led by Kathy LaPlante and provided a comprehensive overview of typical Main Street funding structures. The remaining 3 webinars in the series, including the one today, dive into specific examples of funding programs that have yielded really positive results for local Main Street programs. We, the team, but primarily Sherry Stewart, searched far and wide to bring together some truly innovating and effective Main Street directors from around the nation. And I'm very pleased to introduce them to you, your panel this morning. So Holli Andrews is the executive director from Saline Main Street program in Michigan, where she fulfills the duties with infinite heart and soul. Prior to her current position, Holli provided consult and design services for community planning and small business development in the New England region. Zach, and I'm sorry if I don't get your name right, Zach Schmessar, did I get it?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Zach's the executive director of Old Town Belfast in Maine. He is an experienced professional with a history of success working in the events industry and is skilled in nonprofit organization, community development, business planning, project management, and entrepreneurship. And then Ray Gosling stumbled into her dream job as executive director of Grayling Main Street when she left the big city of Denver, Colorado for rural northern Michigan in 2016. She is a true community leader in many aspects of her life. She coaches youth cheerleading, is a treasurer for the Historical Society and local bowling league, as well as volunteers to assist the local police outreach group on fundraisers. Thank you 3 so much for being with us this morning. We really appreciate your time. I want to invite the attendees as well during the presentations to pose your questions in the Q&A or in the chat. We'll be monitoring those, and following the presentations, we'll have 10 minutes to answer those questions with the panel. So with that, I invite each of the panelists in turn to take 10 minutes and give us your brief presentation of some of the private funding strategies that have worked in your Main Street community. Ray, could I ask you to go first?
Yeah, certainly. I'm happy to do that. I love being on the spot, guys. So I come to your panel today to be a little bit of a cautionary tale, I think. We've actually struggled a lot in our Main Street community here to really activate the private donors in our community. We're very fortunate to have a generous city contribution, which is awesome. But some of the things that we have been doing over the last, we've been a Main Street for 7 years now. So over the last 3 or 4 years, we've built out a new program, which was supposed to get rolled out this year, which clearly did not happen, thanks to Rona. But as a kind of flip to that, we did still take some of those elements, activating some of them in a sense to keep ourselves in the spotlight, or at least in people's vision, which we really helpful, so that hopefully in the next 18 months or so, roll out the full plan as it's intended. So one of the main point of our new strategy was a single ask. Instead of asking folks every 3 months to sponsor this project or sponsor this event or whatever it is, we do a single ask, and they have an opportunity to buy into programming that we will have throughout the year. So if they have specific things that they like to support in our community from events or program specific, then they can choose to support those at the onset of the year. And then if they have other additional dollars that they want to put into our program for operating costs, we can separate those things out for them. Their budget looks like. What we found is that we've got some folks that have an advertising budget that they can put dollars into our events for, and then they also just have a general giving budget that they, like a philanthropic budget that they can give to us as well. So what we did in order to transition was tell people, hey, we're not doing any events this year, but you can still contribute to our programming. We still have opportunities for you to help us out. And right. So we did have to get a little creative because people are less interested. It's really easy to ask for dollars when you have an event that you can promote them through. When you don't have that event programming, it makes it a little more difficult. So one of the things that we did this year is our rainbow envelope. And I'm so bummed that I can't show it to you guys. Because it's at my office and I'm having to work from home right now. So we have this envelope board that's got a bunch of colorful Post-it notes on it. So
we're experiencing a little bit of connectivity issue with Ray. Give her just another second. And just to address one of the quick questions I already saw in the chat, there will be handouts afterward, but those will come to you via your state coordinator, along with the recordings for the videos. So look for that toward the end of this week or early next week, both recordings and any handouts that we have. We're still not seeing Ray, and she just dropped off. These kinds of things definitely happen in our Zoom world. So we'll put a pause in that with Ray and perhaps also try to find some of those examples online if we can share some of those for you. Holly, it seems that you are the only panelist left with us right now. Could we transition to you and ask for your overview right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And is it okay to share my screen?
Please, we would love for you to. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, let's see. All right. Well, it's great to be here, and I hope that some of these things that I'm going to share with you are helpful. And anybody is welcome to give me a call anytime, and I can share this collateral with you. Feel free to copy it directly or whatever makes it easier on you. So I think I'll start out with our annual corporate sponsorship. We don't have a membership. We do have a one-time-a-year ask. And we just found that in other organizations that I worked with, nonprofits, we would sort of solicit donations per event or whatever was coming up. And with this organization, we have a one-time ask, and we do it at the end of the year. We send out this collateral that I'm about to share with you and to solicit an annual donation. We want to get them at the end of the year, hoping that they'll weave it into their budget for the coming year. Most people do have a budget that starts in January, but it even works with the fiscal years that start in July. And they weave it in, and they just know what they're going to give. They give it once, and then we know what our budget is going to look like. And so every year we can add to that list, but it usually seems, except for this year, of course, that they just re-up. So this is, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna just move you guys over there and Ray's back. Well, should we continue?
Go ahead,
with
Holly.
Ray?
Let's keep with Saline right now, and then Ray will get back to you in a minute. Sorry for the back and
We'll
forth.
just crank through this one and then we can come back to my next one. But this is the annual. So what we do is we have this brochure, and it's a one-time ask for all of our events. And so we just list all of our events and what they mean. And then on the back of it, we list the sponsor benefits, and we have different levels. You've seen this before, and you probably all do this, but we have, our levels are spectacular, superb, amazing, fantastic, wow, and cool. And so we just list exactly what those amenities are. So, company listing on Saline Main Street website year round, all of those levels get that. And there's a special page dedicated to that. At every event, we have a big giant sign, and it has everybody's logo for the year. Sometimes when people come in a little, we put a deadline on it. We want people to give by February 15th was the deadline this year, so that we can make that sign. But sometimes we end up printing a couple more, nice tall banners that we put at every single one of our events that shows who our sponsors are. And the thing that I really like about this is that there are a couple events that happen downtown. We want to make sure that they know what events they're sponsoring and who does the other Saline events, mainly to give those other people props, so that we don't look like we're taking credit for Summerfest when it's actually a nonprofit called Summerfest that does it. So we do that. And I think that that's really helpful as well. And then let's see. And then we put that together with this sponsorship form. And so what we do is we just maintain a really good, solid relationship. Thank you letters go out at the end of the year before we produce the big ask. And then we just try to do this with as much, we connect in person. Our president of the board connects. We have a volunteer who helps with development. They connect, and then I do as well, just to really get the message through. And then the other thing we do is we just add to it. We always have a page, or we have this impact report that Michigan Main Street has helped us put together. We always include that collateral so they can see the stuff that we're doing. And that's it for the annual ask. But I will say it's easier than nickel and dime. People can get overwhelmed if you ask them more than one time. Having that one time a year where they can actually weave it into their budget is really helpful, and it makes the asks so much easier.
This looks like a really solid sponsorship plan. I really like how you have other folks from the organization involved in the follow-up and thank you as well. I know we may very well get some questions like this in the chat as we go on, but I wanted to ask you, Holly, how are you approaching this for 2021, given that there's probably still some uncertainty around the events you'll be able to offer?
Absolutely. And so, I do have a rundown. I just don't want to break. Ooh, I just lost you guys. I just don't want to break into, Ray was in the middle of her. So if she wants to continue what she was saying, and then I could come in after and really go through a quick rundown of some of the creative stuff we've done. It's up to you. I just want to be supportive.
That's so kind of you. Ray, if you're okay with that, just for the continuity, I think maybe you stick with Holly for now, and then we'll queue you up for your 10 minutes afterward.
Yeah, that's fine. Because most of the stuff that I have to offer you guys is like fun, creative. So I think it'll be kind of interesting to come after what Holly has to say.
Oh, good.
I'm okay with waiting.
Yes, get my boring stuff out of the way. Absolutely.
No, back to you, Holly. Go ahead.
So I have to just have this in front of me so I can remember. So last year, what we started with was in February. We always do this button drive, and you buy a button from us for $5, and it unlocks amazing deals, and you wear it on your lapel. And we were doing that in February, rocking and rolling. And then, of course, COVID-19 hit, and we had to just change it up. So we started out immediately with a $1,500 gift card. And I just reached out to as many people to give online and raise the money to go and buy gift cards from all our downtown businesses. And then we did a Facebook event where you had to, share the post and then you got put into a drawing, and we had 26 winners, and they each received, I think, 26 winners received $50 or more worth of gift cards for downtown. But then we just hit the ground running. We did a virtual tip jar with a series of telethons. Some friends of ours have a cool little band called the Sociables. And every Sunday we would meet, and every time they say sociable, you have a drink. And we were able to raise quite a bit of money on that directly for the tips workers downtown. And that we raised $3,300. And then in April, we did a t-shirt drive, and I have a picture of that, but we were able to raise $9,000 of proceeds. So we dispersed $450 checks to 21 brick and mortar businesses and sold a bunch of t-shirts. It was great. It really did engage people. And then after that, we did a Reboot Downtown Saline Small Business Relief Fund, where we worked with Patronicity, and we were able to raise over 12 grand with that. And again, dispersed, just gave, checks out to our 24 downtown businesses for $500 a piece. And then after that, we just worked with Patronicity. We created reopen kits, and just we did find private donors that would help fund that. And by the end of October, we were able to raise almost $39,000 that was directly granted back to the businesses. So just to help them take the edge off every month. And so we really loved that telethon model. It was a lot of fun, and we really loved the crowdfund model. And we have a new website coming up with an employee fund on it that we are setting up GoFundMe pages for our businesses, for their employees, to help with the holidays and with our recent pause closure throughout the state of Michigan. So in our area, in our downtown. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Holly. I love these programs and the fact that you were able to find new ways to raise funds, especially for folks in your community who needed them. As a follow-up, if there are any tools that you would recommend, you mentioned Patronicity, if there are any tools like that, let's make sure to include those in the follow-up that our 4 states will be putting together along with the recordings for all of these. I think that kind of recommendation goes a long way, since you've already done the legwork to kind of come up with the structures for those campaigns.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever I can share, I'm happy to. Thank you.
Thank you. And remember, folks, that we are going to be taking questions toward the end. So if you have them as they come up for any of the panelists, please put them in either the chat, or there's a Q&A box option at the bottom of your screen as well. Ray, let's get back to you. If you don't mind kind of giving just the quick overview where you were headed before we had technical difficulties.
Yeah, so sorry about that, guys. So we, much like Saline, we put together a single ask copy for our program this year. It was to be headed up, like I would send out letters to owners, and our board was responsible for following up with them. And that not doing it this past year or this coming year, that's like event-based as far as we know right now. We transition that into something that's a little catchier, it's a little brighter, and it's fun for us to take out. We have a fold board. It's a small one that has these rainbow stickers on it, and it's an envelope fundraiser. The in theory will raise us about $10 if we sell all of the envelopes on it, and in return, donors and contributors are getting into a cash prize drawing that we're doing at the end of December. So here in about a month. How we kind of paired that, we looked at just what we needed as far as what our gap was outside of what events were particular year. What we did was ask our board members to do the same thing that they have to do with this new rollout program, but just on this smaller scale. So what we asked them to do was call the people who have already been donors. One of the problems that we have with the board is none of them like asking for money, which I think probably everybody has that problem. People have already donated to our program, easiest sell, like, oh yeah, sure, I already write you a check, I'll write you another one. And then to go, our district haven't been donors before, but are partners with us in other projects that maybe we're doing in-kind contributions. And then the last phase of it is to actual new donors. So folks that have never written us a check, but maybe have volunteered for something or entered into a contest, but have never actually participated as contributors. So we tried to break it down. Easy sells first, and then they get difficult, and then we put that cold call situation last. So by then they're very confident in what they're asking for. So that's kind of like what our big is. Over the last several months, we've done some silly, fun things to just keep us in mind when people are looking to see, like, why would I do a check? What are you doing? We're not the only thing that we're doing as far as fundraising right now is this envelope board. But we are doing some other stuff to grab attention. So my favorite thing that we're doing right now is buy local bingo. And actually a that I stole from I think it was. I heard it on just like listening to the radio one day. They were doing it with restaurants. So I bought bingo cards, gave them out. I host bingo, like virtual bingo, every other Monday locally. You'll get a bingo card and then you log on and play bingo with us, and we give out. So it's just a tool that our businesses know, and it was crazy cheap to help our businesses know that we're still here for them and that we want to be helpful for them, even when we can't bring huge traffic to the downtown during an event, to get that motion in and out of their doors. We have something that we can, that's still fun, that's still entertaining, and costs us all. I think this project now is less and it's just been fun. The businesses can use it how they want to use it. And I think every night that I've done bingo, I've got 5 or 6 people on there, which is a lot. Our community is only 1,800 people in our community. To have 5 is like, it's not too shabby for us. So the other thing that we started doing is middle school meets Main Street. And this is really a cue with folks outside of our normal little bubble of downtown. So middle schoolers are interviewing virtually business and employees for a downtown business, and then they tell a story about it. It's kind of journalistic writing for 8th graders in a creative writing class. They can pick the story that they want to tell. It doesn't have to be about the business. It just has to be. And we publish them. We will publish them. The first ones won't be ready for 2 weeks, but they'll be out on our newspaper has agreed to run them. We'll put them on our Facebook and on our socials, as well as on our website, and the school is going to publish them as well. It's in our residents in our community that maybe don't spend as much time downtown, parents and whatever, worry about downtown might resonate with them from a different perspective. So we've really just put a fair amount of effort into helping people to continue to see the value of our community, so that when we are able to making our ask, we still have that in our back pockets. Like, we did actually do stuff And this is how we were able to make a difference in a time when we couldn't do what we usually were doing. I think that's really the key to any donor program, is to have good communication and good connection when you are making those asks, to give them a reason to share with you, to give them a reason to want to donate.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I appreciate the connection you made that that those other programs aren't directly fundraiser events, but they are ways to keep folks who might also be donors to your program engaged throughout the year, and with a really tangible memory of something that you've done with them. I had a quick question about the Rainbow Envelope fundraiser. You said that's a seasonal program. It's got an end date in mind. Is that one of your strategies for sort of helping your board learn about fundraising? Is it's a finite program with a reward, so it's a bit easier in terms of a sell? I missed a little bit of what you were explaining at the very beginning.
So yeah, it was our alternative. It was our adjustment to not being able to do our ask this year. So that our board members would go out and make the ask to us for the one-time mass. Say, this is what we need for the full year. These are the events that participated in, or these are all of the events we do. So that whole interaction with somebody who has a donor to us, and they would on to phase 2, which is people who maybe did one or haven't written us a check-in, but are still involved with us some way. And then phase 3 are those cold calls. So we wanted to keep that structure so that our board would get used to it. We came to this envelope idea. We just wanted something bright and colorful and interesting, so that if our board members were, so we could have pictures of it and it'd be like shining in your face, and our board members could still do that same process, just with a different task. Fully going to be very practiced at it here, and then next year when we building out our regular full budget, they'll be like, oh, we say, you know what's up. So this was our plan, just to make sure that we continue to have those engagements and have that money talk with people, because we still need dollars to programming, but we definitely dialed back what our ask is, because we don't have event fundraising or this year that needs to be paid for. It's really just our operating costs, and we run a program. I'm our only staff member, and our office space and most of our services are in kind from the city. So we really narrowed in what our ask was to make sure that we don't want people to spend money on us when they could be spending it locally. We just need to get by this year.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, Holly's agreeing with that for sure. Yeah, I just really appreciate that a big part of your goal was practicing having money talk with people. I think that's a very worthwhile process and a creative way to get that done. So as a follow-up for you, Ray, I would love to see, if you don't mind sending them later for us to get out to folks, images of what that looked like. And if you have broken down for your board anywhere, kind of that tiered structure of the conversations they're having, I think that'd be a really good tool to have too. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
If you change Facebook, it's Grayling at Grayling on Facebook. Scroll down a little bit because it's been a minute since I posted pictures, but
very good.
There, it's real cute.
Very good. Thank you so much.
But I will send those and how that breakdown.
Thank you. Last but not least, Zach, can you share with us some of your strategies from Old Town Belfast?
Yeah. Can you hear me? I think I'm hearing like every other word of Ray.
Ray was a little choppy for me too, but I hear you just fine.
Okay, great. So our partners program, our partners program really started back when the organization started 10 years ago, and businesses were asked to make a multi-year commitment to support the organization so that it could get off the ground. And after those initial 3 years were up, the funds from businesses in the downtown really dwindled. And at some point, this program was created. It's not a membership. It really is financial support from businesses. We'll work with any business in our downtown, regardless of whether or not they're a partner. I think the success of the program has really come from, there hasn't been very many direct asks for people to join the program. I think the way it's been positioned, it allows for businesses to see the value, and for a very small amount of money, they see a lot of value and they get a lot of return. So it's all the information is available on our website, ourtownbelfast.org. Up in the right-hand corner, there's a join button. There are many of our businesses in our downtown who are members of our chamber, and quite frankly, they get more value out of what we offer them than they do the chamber. And as I'll get into, there's different levels of this partners program. So part of what we've been able to do is move various partners through the levels. It starts at $150 and it goes up from there. Very similar to the program that Holly described in terms of deliverables. So it's a pretty typical program. We provide the option for folks to pay monthly, so their credit card gets auto billed, or they pay all at once. And one of the things we've been really good about doing is sharing stories about our partners, whether it be in our email newsletter or on our website through blogs. For me, I have a background in kind of major sponsorships, like $10,000 and $20,000 sponsorships for events. And so, I mean, those are major asks. Here, like I said, I think I haven't asked anybody to join our partners program. We do send out a renewal letter to get people to renew every year. And just like Holly kind of highlights some of the things that we've been working on this year in particular, where some of the other organizations in our community have scaled back their services, we've been able to step up and tailor and offer more services for businesses in our downtown. And as a result, we've seen people who have never given our organization $1 starting to give us money. They recognize and see the value. Oftentimes, those were people who would ride on the coattails of the other businesses in our downtown that would support us. And it really has become about relationship building. I spent a considerable amount of time out on the street or in people's businesses, even more people who are not our partners, and understanding what it is that they need and how we can help them, and then positioning ourselves to be a resource to them. This has also proven to be really powerful. We've written blog posts about some of our bigger partners, and then they use it in their collateral and their marketing. And it has become to the point where people say, how can I get you to do that about me? And say, well, they're in our partners program, so we do it. This is our renewal letter. I don't know how well you can see. This year in particular, when we put our partners program on hold in March in terms of sending out renewals, the very last paragraph asks, and we could send this around, talks about everything we've done since the beginning of March. The very last paragraph asks people to consider supporting us. It doesn't ask them, it reminds them at what level they supported us, and it asks them to consider supporting us at a level that's appropriate for their business and based on where they are. We've had, I think, one business in our downtown who wasn't able to continue supporting us at the same level. But otherwise, our partners continue to renew. We continue to get new partners. And I think for me, this last slide, I think is really, in terms of the growth of the program, and it's kind of organically grown significantly, and we're on track to do better than the $22,000 that we did in 2019 in 2020. And I think we would have done even better had it not been for COVID and the current pandemic. But I think this program aligns really well with our mechanism of delivery of services to our businesses and where our downtown is. So it's not an ask of a sponsorship of an event. It's making sure that the services that we're delivering for property owners and for businesses and for members of the community aligns, and people are able to speak with their dollars and confirm that. So we feel like we're on a good trajectory with that in terms of what we're able to do and the relationships we've been able to build. There's a board component as well. Our board goes out and thanks businesses and makes sure that there's a relationship, not just with me, I'm the only staff member, but also with members of our board. And so we can sort of have that feedback loop. So if there's a concern that a business raises with a board member, we address it as quickly as we can, whatever it is, whether or not it's related to the organization. It could be a challenge they're having with the city. And so we try and be the most responsive resource, which puts us in this position where we can best serve our downtown. I don't think it's really anything groundbreaking or earth-shattering. I think it's really just very much like Ray and Holly's model, but it's tailored for our community, and we've found something that's proven to be successful. This is still only about 30% of all the businesses in our downtown who are contributing through this program. So there's tons of room for growth. And as we continue to get more and more businesses online, it allows us to do more and more programs and more services. And it all relates back to the quality of the downtown. I think it's measurable, and it's noticeable for all the various different stakeholders in our downtown. So that's our partners program.
Excellent program. I really like this model, and we've been talking about this, well, for some of us, a shift a lot over the last several years, at least in Washington. I heard Kathy LaPlante say something very similar, using your program as a model yesterday as well. The idea that it's really so mission aligned for a Main Street program to have a partnership. You know, we're working with the businesses, not for them, as a membership model sort of implies. And super encouraging to hear you say that you're not really even going out and doing sales pitches. That was the experience that I had as well as a Main Street director, changing our model from membership to partnership. Is that folks were seeing the value, retention was high, and they were coming to us. And it does feel like it's just the idea that makes the difference. You know, it's not about benefits, it's about the mission and being part of something, especially when you're delivering so well for your partners.
Yeah, I think the relationship thing, I think, is really important. I think sometimes the challenge with membership is the one size fits all approach. With the partnership, you really can tailor what works for business A doesn't work for business B, and vice versa. So you can really hone in on what they find value in and make sure that they'll support. And a lot of these businesses that are part of our program, our partners program, support some of our other programs, whether it be, you know, our reads at the holiday season or a map. So it's really an a la carte kind of option. They can support the various things that they want, but at the base, it's this partnership program that they see value in the organization.
Now, did I hear you say that they choose the amount that they give? And if so, is that a reaction to COVID, or is that how this program was always set up?
It was a reaction to COVID. We had one business who cut their giving in half just because that's where they were financially. All the others stayed in line with where they were. The program does start, it goes from $150 all the way up to $250. Interestingly, one of the pieces of feedback I heard when I started 3 years ago, that $300 was too steep for some businesses. So we created a level at $150, and we instantly had almost 20 businesses join at that level. So it was really a being able to kind of listen and respond. They wanted to support us. It was just at a level that was too much, and it didn't detract from the other levels. In fact, some of the other levels continued to grow, and a lot of those businesses at the $150 level are businesses that have just started and don't have a lot of cash to outlay. And so, but we've seen as the years go by for those businesses, they're the ones that are likely to move up into the other levels and provide that leadership for other businesses.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful to be responsive and then to see that the results are positive and that it didn't cause others to move down because that lower level was available. It just caused more to want to be part of it because it met their abilities. We have a question, or a couple of questions in the Q&A box, and for other attendees, we do have about 5 minutes left if you want to send yours in as well. Have you had success with non-downtown businesses or regional agencies joining your partner programs? And I'll direct that to Zach first, but would also love to hear from Holly and Ray, your responses there.
We do. Some of our major employers, we have a few in our downtown. We have some that are not. We have a car dealership that's not in our downtown. But I think the message for them is that our downtown is where they go to dine or to shop. And so they see the value in it and they recognize the importance that the downtown has for the overall larger economy. And so they're willing to support it, and they don't see it as a territorial or, we're not directly benefiting. They do see a benefit.
Holly, what's your response to that? Do you have partners outside of your downtown?
The same pitch.
Oh yeah, we do. Lots of them are outside, and our biggest sponsors are actually outside of the downtown. And they just want to be part of it. I think, you generate a lot of excitement about this, historic or whatever it is, whatever your identity is for your downtown. Just extending that and inviting them to be a part of it. And I think also there's a little bit of the Jones effect, when you have that page in these different levels. Well, this company did that. I think we can do that as well, sort of thing can happen organically. And we don't try to drive that, because I myself always am intimidated by stuff like that. But just that it's inspiring, to think that, and just to be part of it. Our events are fun, whether it's live music or whatever it is, or even honoring, different groups, veterans, or memorial hanging baskets. I think that it's just something that they feel like it's nice to be a part of.
Ray, I'm so sorry. Your audio was delayed for me. I think I cut you off.
That's okay. I put an answer in the answer. I typed out an answer because I think we're going to continue to have a problem with my audio here.
Well, thank you so much, Ray. Yeah, I see that you're saying that in Grayling, you find your partners outside of downtown appreciate it as the place to gather and service employees, and they're often your largest donors, like Holly said as well. One of the things I want to pull out that Zach mentioned is that major employers are often a really good place to look. Do you have any other recommendations in terms of the types of businesses to look at? And I kind of want to pair this up with something Kathy LaPlante was saying yesterday about looking for the businesses in this moment of COVID who are actually doing quite well. Do you have any recommendations in terms of like broad industries folks might look toward?
Yeah, I will just add one other piece. I think I think we've kind of missed the mark. My board has talked about this in terms of a residential component at a much lesser level than the 150. I think there's an opportunity because people want to belong. I think businesses that provide a service for another business, I think in a lot of regards have not been impacted. Accountants have been busier, especially with PPP. Banks haven't necessarily been hit like they were in 2008 during the economic crisis. So there are businesses that provide services or professional services to other businesses that haven't really been hit as hard or have been busier as a result of. I think they're great candidates, and depending on who the businesses are, beer distributors.
Yeah, good points there. Holly or Ray, any other kind of responses to the types of businesses to maybe look at?
I think the larger the folks that are doing manufacturing outside of our downtown. Again, like Zach was saying, businesses who are serving other businesses, they're continuing to be busy. And I was going to mention alcohol distribution, like beer and wine sales, like those guys are hopping right now. And we have a very good relationship with one in our community who actually came to us and was like, okay, what can we do? Because we're definitely going to need some additional write-offs this year.
Yeah. And like Kathy was mentioning yesterday, some of those might be vendors to your businesses, but they might also be vendors for your major events. So you might have a relationship there that has not been tapped. Sorry for the pun, not been tapped as much as it could have been. Holly, any closing thoughts on that question?
Just that, I was an outsider. I moved here from Boston, so I didn't know people, and I really relied on my board of directors who were townies, especially the townies who knew the manufacturing or the business owners, the larger business owners that use the downtown a lot, whether it's the downtown dojo or come out to eat or whatever, that whether they're management and big companies or whatnot, that they have a connection, and they have a connection to a business owner or employees that are downtown and just want to be engaged and want to help.
Yeah,
So
like
that for any of you directors out there who are not townies, I was from so far away. It was culture shock. So
I almost think that's an opportunity though too. If you look at it like that, you can go in and have a conversation with anybody and say, like, I'm not from here. Like, what do you think I should know, or what would you like? What would you like for us to work on? And there's no pre-existing relationship, so it's a great place to start.
You're absolutely right. That definitely was an ace in the hole for me too. And they wanted somebody who had fresh eyes to sort of see things and have an inquisitive approach. It's always about asking and learning. And that's what I've learned during COVID-19 too. We need to be listening a lot and learning to the people that are at ground zero for funding and just for everything as we're trying to create, solve problems and whatnot.
I think you all hit on so many important parts of having a really good ongoing private fundraising plan. The listening and responsiveness, the engagement, both Ray, what you do throughout the year, but also your really creative strategy for getting your board engaged in the uncomfortableness of fundraising, and it all really coming back to ongoing relationship building. So thank you all so much for being part of this. So nice to talk with all of you, and thank you for your hard work. It's been, I know, quite the year of movement and creativity and just trying circumstances, and appreciate all that you and the other Main Streeters on this meeting today are doing out there. Your work is just really inspiring and oh so important. So if you as panelists and certainly all of the attendees would like to join in a quick 30-minute follow-up conversation, there is a link in the chat right here. I'll give just a few seconds for folks to copy or click that, and we will end this webinar and open that meeting up for everybody. So thanks again for the attendees, as well as especially our panelists today. So good talking with all of you, and hope to see you in the Zoom meeting in just a moment.